This is Janaye from Geek Boutique Podcast.com, and you're listening to the Album of the Week podcast.
Welcome to the Album of the Week podcast. I am your host, Vic, and with me I have my co-host, Jesse. How you doing, Jesse?
Vic? I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. I just got back from Palm Springs last weekend, and I'm enjoying my nice tan. Also with us today on our episode, we have a special guest, Janaye. How you doing?
Hi! I'm good. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this album.
It's our pleasure to have you. And speaking of the album, we are reviewing a throwback album today, System of a Down, Toxicity. This was a pick by our wonderful co-host, Jesse. And it was interesting to go back and listen to this because, all honesty, I had never listened to it all the way through. Yeah, I had my reasons, and many of that was because I was not a very open music listener when I was younger, and I had an issue with this band in particular because I went to a school I used to live in Pasadena where there's a high volume of Armenian folk, which this band is Armenian. Armenian American, of course. They're from Glendale, but Pasadena and Glendale have the two highest populations of Armenian groups, I think, other than in Armenia, which is great. I love, the culture is, it's very fun to.
Was System of a Down just obnoxiously popular?
They were, and it wasn't necessarily because they were popular that I didn't like it. There were so many people claiming that they're my cousin, they're this or that, and on top of that being a genre that I didn't necessarily, I couldn't get into wholeheartedly because it's on the border of metal, and it was just something that I wasn't very open to then. Things are much different now. I'm very open to all kinds of different music, but it was just something I didn't. Pardon?
Oh, I was going to say, I was telling you off air, mine was pretty much the opposite experience, where you had never listened to the album all the way through. I used to love System of a Down, and System of a Down was like, this album came out in 2001?
2001, yes.
Yeah. 2001. I was only 10 years old, so I wasn't listening to them then. But around 2004 and 2005, I met some friends who were really into like prog rock, alt rock, hard rock, new metal, all that stuff. So I started listening to things like Dream Theater and Opeth and Muse and Coheed and Cambria, and of course System of a Down falls in that big umbrella. So listening to this album this week, when you were like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast to talk about System of a Down? It's like, fuck yes, I do. Like, oh, man. So I was having hardcore nostalgia all week long re-listening to this album.
Yeah. Jesse, did you listen to this? I'm sure you listened to it many times since you suggested it. Is this one of your go-to regular albums, at least System of a Down-wise?
Well, I don't own too many System of a Down albums, but this is one album I bought probably in middle school, I think, or I don't remember when I bought it. It was such a long time ago. But yeah, I didn't really get into System of a Down as a young teenager. It was such a bizarre time for like metal music, and I think around that time you had bands like POD and I can't even think of them. Like I want to say like Disturbed, such a bizarre like genre of like metal music.
Yeah, like Cradle of Filth and stuff like that.
Cradle of Filth, I think it's a little more hardcore, but like you have like the Slipknot and like System of a Down and like
yeah.
You had like that type of metal scene, where I grew up, and it was just, you went from just leaving the 90s when you had this huge grunge scene, and before that in the 80s you had this really cool like
Hair rock,
thrash,
yeah,
yeah, thrash metal, glam metal scene, and then like seeing
yeah.
it progress to this different kind of metal music was just interesting. But you know what?
System of the Down was the furthest I got towards metal because they were kind of classified as like new metal, but with like prog rock
Right.
kind of overtones or undertones, and then also Serge Tankian is. I can't remember if this was like a true fact or not, but he might be trained in opera. I think I maybe heard that, but at least like he's like a very talented singer, so like the vocal
There's
range.
there's no doubt when you hear this guy sing, it's pretty unique and it's really good. So
I think that's the thing that attracted me to System of a Down.
yeah, definitely the voice is a huge factor for me too.
He has a very, very big range, and that's one thing that I really enjoyed and noticed about this album. His range from his deep metal growl to his very melodic, like just softer tones, softer notes that he can hit are amazing. I was in awe of that on this album. It was interesting. It was an interesting first listen through. I'll just say that for me.
Had you listened to other System of a Down all the way through, other than Toxicity?
No, I haven't,
Okay.
but I've heard all their big singles because they were in a time where MTV and it was on this downfall, but they were clutching for music to kind of stay alive on the channel. But on the radio they play it all the time out here because they're from, like I said, they're from Glendale, and they're good at playing local bands on our local radio station, K-Rock.
That's got to be crazy to be able to claim a band as big as System of a Down as like they're from my hometown. Like
they're close enough, and like I said, the Armenian community is such a small community that I don't doubt that there are a lot of cousins and friends that I went to school with. But at that time, I was just not into it, and I just I couldn't. It was just bothersome, and in all honesty, it was me. I was just not into it, and I probably would have liked it a lot more if I had my musical taste now.
Yeah.
But I didn't. But
I was pretty closed off with my taste, but in the I guess opposite. Like I think you and our music tastes are a Venn diagram, and where we overlapped was Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
And then I listened to other stuff in the other direction, and you listened to other things,
sure.
Which is why I was so surprised when you're like, yeah, like I've never really listened to Toxicity. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I just at that time it was a totally different story, and I just couldn't get into it. But now we did listen to this album. This album actually had some interesting reviews overall, kind of both ends of the spectrum. A lot of people claim it to be a really great metal album. Some just thought it was awful, and it's an interesting. I think it's just so there's such polar opposite parts of the album that I feel like that makes sense in the overall reviews that the album got. Let's get into our very first segment, and this is the segment called Love It or Hate It, or Love It and Hate It, where we choose one of each for the album, one track that we loved, one track that we hated. And since you're our guest, we'll go ahead and allow you to do the Love It or Hate It first. Go ahead, Janaye.
Do I do both, or do we each say what we hate and then what we love?
Do your Love It and Hate It, and then we'll do Jesse and then myself.
Okay. I have 1.5 for each.
Okay.
Because there was one song that I loved half of it and I hated half of it, and that's Aerials. I think the song Aerials is beautiful. It's such a great closing song, but then they tacked that weird out-of-place outro on
Oh yeah, that's true.
It doesn't fit with the album vibe at all. Like, it gets just It's weird. It's all like drum circly and
Yeah,
strange. Like,
you know, it's funny that you bring that up. Like, I always listen to a song, and I love that song, but when that outro comes on, I just turn it off, and that's it.
yeah, yeah. I re-listened to this album like 3 or 4 times this week, and I'd get to the outro, and I'm just like, ugh.
No, that's it. Album's done.
So that's a love it and a hate it, but that's only half a song. So I would say love it. I wanted to pick Chop Suey, but I think I'm kind of I don't feel right picking that because that's such a nostalgia song. Like, we all played that on Guitar Hero and heard it on the radio all the time, and for a lot of us, that was our introduction to System of a Down. So I think that clouds my judgment. Re-listening to the album, I thought Forest was a really great song, and it was one that I'd forgotten about. I can't even really say what drew me to it. I think it's, a lot of the album is pretty heavy and pretty metal, and I think that song and Toxicity have the most like prog rock influences, and that's how I got into System of a Down. Like, that's the closest I ever got to listening to like metal.
Yeah.
So I really liked Forest, and that was a surprising song for me.
Oh, interesting. Very, very interesting. Jesse, take the floor.
For my hated, I'm gonna have to say Toxicity. It's not a bad song. It's just overplayed. So when people talk System, they just list the hits, and I'm not really a guy who listens to hits all the time. So I'm all about digging into that album, figuring out what my favorite song is. Not
the deep cuts. The deep cuts.
The deep cuts, and not the radio cuts.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I like the song, but like I said, it's just overplayed in my opinion. My favorite song off the album is probably one of the shortest ones, but I like the song Bounce. I just love the aggressiveness of the song. The drums are just like taka 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 taka, and it's just
pogo 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 pogo.
Yeah,
bounce.
it just makes me want to like jump in the pit again, like I was a kid.
I was hoping one of you would say that because I was worried one of you would say you hate Bounce because you think it's silly. But I love it. It's just an absurd song.
Yeah, it's one of my
but
workout
in the
songs.
right ways. That's so good. And you just, you're right. Like, you feel like you're in the pit. You just immediately get high energy. You're like, wow.
Yeah, and I just love when bands are able to create that type of sound. Like, you don't understand what's going on. It's just the energy that's coming out of the instruments that just makes you want to like just get crazy.
I actually agreed 100%. There was one technical component of the song that I thought was very interesting, and that was the use of stereo. We always hear stereo. What does that mean? It means you're able to use both channels in pretty much your headphones. Think about your headphones, left and right channel. And they used it very interestingly on that song, Bounce. And I was like, oh, wow. And on top of what you said, the overall feeling and the kind of energy that they put out on that album, I actually agreed that was a really, really good song.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that with headphones because I didn't notice that at all because I listened to it like while I was in the car and stuff and like on my computer speakers, which aren't, just the default, so I don't really like hear that separation at all. So I'm going to have to go back and listen.
It was interesting. Yeah, I definitely caught that, and I was like, anytime an artist is, conscious enough to do things like that, I always take notice and I always enjoy it. I thought they used it pretty well.
I think the technical side of System of a Down is part of why their music is so lasting that, we can all still remember this album and remember the hits 10 years later. Or I guess it came out in 2001, so 15 years later. They're a very technically proficient band, and even down to just the little stuff that a lot of people wouldn't notice, like, stereo separation is, they're not just some, I don't know how to say it. I'm like I'm losing my words in the middle of my thought.
Yeah, like a flash in the pan type.
Yeah.
Like someone that can just make a song and I totally agree that there's something about lasting music that they're musicians, they're not just someone that wrote a song, and I can see why they've lasted so long, 20 plus years probably now, because Toxicity was their second album, so I'm guessing around 20 years.
Yeah. Their first one came out I think in 99.
So yeah, they've been around for quite a while, and
going on to 20 years, it seems.
Yeah, they're definitely a band that is not your average band, And I guess that's why we're talking about it, right?
Yeah, I'll always remember this because I had a friend in high school who was obsessed with System of a Down. It was hands down his favorite band ever,
Mhm.
and we were having some discussion about like how our parents' music, we all still listen to it because there's just so many classic bands from previous eras, but now there are so many like one-hit wonders and pop stars that are just,
Sure.
churning out hits, but, what's really going to last? Like, what will we show our children? What will they listen to and think of like classics from our generation? And he said, hands down, System of a Down. He's like, people will be listening to System of a Down forever. They're amazing. They're like incredible musicians. And I remember telling him, yeah, I don't think so. Like, no way. Like, that's totally not a thing. And here I am. I have to eat my words 15 years later because this album, and I think the rest of their early discography, totally holds up. It's incredible. I mean, it remains to be seen whether future listeners will pick up System of a Down and listen to it and gravitate
Sure.
towards it like the same way that we have. But, 15 years later, I'm still listening to it going, yeah, I don't think there's many bands I listened to 15 years ago that I can be like, yeah, no, this is still incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It is something that I think will, at least most of their discography will probably last the test of time.
Yeah, well, definitely Toxicity will be one of those albums that will. That's for sure.
Chop Suey and Aerials, I think, are two, because I played it. I played it out for my boyfriend today, and he didn't really listen to System of a Down, but he was like, "Oh, I know this song. Oh, I know this song. Oh, I know this song." And
Yeah,
that's
they were
just
such
crazy to me.
they were such a big part of the 2000s and I guess the rock music, alt rock, metal rock scene that they were probably the poster boys of that time.
Yeah.
They were probably one of the most known bands that came up and really made a name for themselves around the 2000s, and I think they will last for a while, and at least this album, it'll find its audience in the future, I think.
I
Um,
agree.
as for my love it or hate it, I'm gonna be honest. This album, although I can appreciate it and understand the appeal and the positive aspects of it. It was half of a good album, or half of a little bit above good album, but half of a good album and half of a kind of just boring album, in my opinion. There was a lot of just standard metal riffs that just were not inventive enough for me, and it was hard to split that in half and kind of. My absolute love it was Force. I had to agree. I think it was Janaye.
Yay!
Janaye, you kind of mirrored my thoughts. The melody was absolutely phenomenal. I thought it was great. It was on point, just perfectly placed, and the use of heavy and light guitar riffs were just perfection. I could not have asked for more from a single track. I also didn't want to go with any of the singles, although I think Forest is better than any of the singles as well. But those would be definitely in the running. Forest was on point. I have to tell people got to listen to that album. It'll probably get you into this album or that track, I should say. It'll get you into this album
It's a secret gem because it wasn't a single, but it's
yeah, no,
it's
definitely.
the standout song for me.
It was definitely one of those, like I said, deep cuts. It was fantastic. I loved it. As for my hate it, I'll just read you my notes for this.
Do you
Worst
have like
track.
8 of them?
No, I only have one that was very
Okay.
stand out. I'll read you my notes before I tell you what it was.
Okay.
Worst track, triple exclamation point. Shit chorus. Worst verse. These were my notes for this track. The track was Shimmy. I
Really?
absolutely did not like it. I absolutely hated it. I thought it was terrible. That was easily one of the tracks where I thought you could have just got rid of it and I wouldn't have minded at all. I didn't like it at all.
Oh, that's funny because I listened to it again this morning, and for me, that's another one of those fun tracks, kind of like Bounce. Like Bounce
Yeah.
is a lot better, but Shimmy's another one of those like.
Yeah, I like Shimmy a lot too.
Boy, well, I mean, I guess we're all entitled to our very strong opinions, like I have.
Are we all
But
in agreement, at least, that the outro to Aerials
It's a
is the
waste.
worst part of the album?
no, absolutely not. Actually, I think that
What?
was. I feel like that is not even a part of the song almost, and it's kind of like a secret track that I don't know if you remember back in the day they used to put secret tracks on CDs.
Yeah.
They
Where
still
they-
do.
Well, yeah, I haven't heard one in a while, but you're right, they still do. Where they'll just let dead air play for a while, which is what happens on
Yeah.
the track. And I feel like it's almost a secret track. And on its own, I actually loved it. I thought it was really good. But that's thinking that it's not necessarily a part of the song.
My big problem with it as well is that it just doesn't fit with the rest of the album. Like, I don't think it just doesn't fit. Like, I don't see how it works with the whole of Toxicity. It just
Mm-hmm.
it stands out in a bad way. It's like a weird sore thumb where I'm just like, what is that doing there?
Well,
That's my opinion.
yeah, no, absolutely. I just thought it was refreshing, like different take on
Mhm.
what they were doing, and yeah, it is different than what they were doing on the album. I agree, but I guess the way I saw it was that it was a bonus track, and they didn't. It's not necessarily a part of the album, but it is.
Yeah.
So in thinking of it that way, I kind of felt that it worked as a bonus track, and I don't know. I guess I really liked it.
I mean, I'll accept that. I feel like I would hate it less maybe if it made an appearance on one of their lighter albums, because I feel like Toxicity is one of their heavier albums, being, part of their earlier sound. But yeah, I just, in Toxicity, I'm just like, it's weird to me, so I don't like it as much. But I could see why, especially if you aren't a huge fan of the album as a whole, that might be a highlight for you, versus it would be kind of a bad note for me.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. We're gonna steamroll right through to our next segment. Throwback or throw away. This is where we're gonna tell you whether we thought this is a worthwhile album to pick up if you haven't listened to it, or if this is something that goes straight into the rubbish bin and never to be heard again. And we'll start with Jesse this time. Jesse, throwback or throw away?
This album's definitely a throwback album for me.
Okay, and if you were to give it a letter grade, because we usually do letter grades on our new album review, what would you give it?
Probably a B plus or an A minus for this album. I mean, I just think about the time this album came out. We talked about how they're an Armenian American band, and just what the country went through it, particularly in that year, and for them to have the success that they did, and the type of influence they left behind here, and just the scene of American metal music. That's pretty incredible to me, and if you can do that, that's definitely like an A-B range for me.
Yeah. Okay. Janae?
I'm gonna agree with that. I gave it a B plus, A minus, but I'll go with B plus. Definitely a throwback, if you couldn't tell, because I was just having crazy nostalgia feels the whole time. But I gave it a B plus because I thought the album was very cohesive as a whole. It had really great flow from beginning to end, where it starts off really angry and aggressive, and then it kind of it works its way down to Aerials, and I thought that just the flow of it was really nice. It's a solid sophomore album. You always hear about the sophomore slump, but this was their second album, and it produced at least 2 great hits from it. Whether you want to, I mean, you can't deny Chop Suey is a huge success, and whether you want to say Toxicity or Aerials was the other great standout from that album. It produced at least 2 big hits, and that's pretty big for being a sophomore album. It's not my favorite System of a Down album, but I think a lot of fans would say that Toxicity is their favorite System of a Down album because it's got their older sound while starting to broach the newer stuff that you hear in like Mesmerize and Hypnotize.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
What would you say your favorite System album is?
Probably Mesmerize.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I also listened to everything this week, so they're kind of blending together now. I tried to really put Toxicity, like listen to that, but then I shuffled through the rest of their stuff this week just because I couldn't stop listening to them once I started. But I would say Mesmerize is probably my favorite.
And Jesse, this would be your favorite System album? You don't have too many, right?
Yeah, it's probably this one and let's see. Well, I think Seal This album is pretty good too. I like that
Yeah.
one.
They don't have
Okay.
any bad albums, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
Like,
I agree. I think they have pretty decent albums all around. Like I could listen to every single one of them and be pretty content with their music.
Okay. All right, so my throwback or throwaway. This is difficult. I'm actually going to start with my letter grade. My letter grade for this album is actually very favorable. I think the way they brought in pretty much political statements that I think most people would agree with about prison systems and just it's a really thought-provoking album lyrically.
definitely.
Serge, he is a great singer. I really enjoy what he did. The problem is I don't feel his band is the right fit for him. I feel like he can, if he had something else going. I don't know because I just had such a block of what they do.
Have you listened to his solo stuff?
Yeah, he
I
has he has
haven't.
the solo stuff too.
You
That's
would
kind of
like
what
his
I'm
solo
asking, yeah.
stuff. If you enjoy his lyrical range and his vocal range,
Mhm.
his solo stuff is way more focused on the singing than the growling.
Okay.
And I find a lot of his stuff to be really beautiful.
Yeah, it's not even the growling stuff that gets me. It's a little bit, but but not necessarily that. It doesn't necessarily feel like a genuine growl. Like
Mhm.
it feels like it fit the genre that they were trying to do, not necessarily fit the feeling of what they were going for, and that kind of it kind of took me out of the album a little bit. But overall, I'd have to say it is a B minus, which is pretty decent. Like I said, his vocals are great. His lyrics are pretty outstanding, and I just don't feel that. First of all, the background vocals really bothered me.
The
But
second
not,
singer?
yeah, but not during the melodic parts. I think he actually nailed it on that part. When they go heavy, the backup vocalist or the second vocalist, he just doesn't have the range to do it. It doesn't sound on par. It doesn't sound like it's well balanced. And I just feel that it wasn't there for the background vocals, and musically I just kind of felt like half of it was kind of boring regular metal music, something that was not very inventive, and it wasn't enough to pick up the slack. As far as throwback or throwaway, for me, I gotta say it's gonna be a throwaway. I don't think I'm gonna go back too much and listen to it.
Boo.
I don't. I don't think I'm gonna go back and listen to it too much, other than the songs that I really enjoyed.
You're gonna save Forest and delete everything else?
I'm gonna say Forest and maybe the singles, and I probably won't delete it, but I probably won't go to it.
Yeah.
I won't go back to it, and I really enjoy listening to albums all the way through. I kind of like seeing the flow of albums, and for myself, I don't think that's something I will save, but I do recommend people to listen to this album because I know there's going to be some people that can really enjoy this. I think it is overall a throwback, but personally, it is a throwaway. I'm not going to go back and listen to the album in its entirety. I just won't. But I do appreciate what it can do and what it is and what they were going for. I just can't go back and listen to the album in its entirety. I will save Forest. I will save a couple of the other tracks that were pretty good. But overall, for myself, I will say it's a throwaway.
I
But
think that's fair. I mean, I mean, to each their own, and you gave it a
Sure.
chance. You branched out, you listened to something you hadn't really given the chance before. You did find some gems in there that you like, which is.
Absolutely. And like I said, I there's stuff that I really like, but like I said, there was something about the musical aspect of it. I felt that when it was driven by the melody of Serge, the lead singer, the songs did really well. But when he necessarily wasn't driving the melody,
Mhm.
when the guitarist or the basses were driving the melody of the songs, they just weren't very good tracks. They weren't. I just felt that they were not memorable or something that will last for a while. But like I said, the good songs were really good. It was kind of a tale of two albums. The good was really good. The bad was kind of bad. It wasn't horrible, but it was kind of bad. So that's my take on it. And like I said, throw away for myself personally, but I would suggest if you have heard their singles and you like it, to listen to the album. I think it will actually. I think you will have at least a decent time to listen to it. If not, you'll love it. I think it is a worthwhile album.
To add to that, from what Jesse said, I think listening to it in the context of 2001 is also a good idea because this is a fairly political album, and it did come out of, they released it, I think it was the week of 9/11, and they still topped the charts with it.
Yeah.
So if you think about, this is kind of towards the forefront of like American metal, and it's early System of a Down, and that I would say
Sure.
this was the album that probably launched them into the really popular sphere. With the helps of like MTV and stuff like that. For those reasons alone, I think listening to Toxicity is
Well,
a good idea.
I think in today's political and social economic and social climate in general, I think the message still stands pretty strong, and it has its importance in our culture, and I think it would be interesting to see the similarities in that time, in our time now, with so much craziness going on. Not to get into specifics or anything, but I think this would be a good time to go back and listen to it better than ever. If you're gonna listen to it, do it now. Do it immediately.
Stop this podcast. Go listen to Toxicity.
Well, yeah. Wait till the end of the podcast and then listen to the album. On a side note, Jesse went to Ohana Fest this weekend. Yesterday, as a matter of fact. Let's just say this weekend. And he got to see some cool musicians. Who'd you get to see, Jesse?
Well, I want to go see my main boy, Eddie Vedder. If you don't know who that is the lead singer of Pearl Jam.
Yes.
And if you
don't
don't
know who that
and
is.
if you don't know who Pearl Jam is, then something's
Can't help
wrong
you.
with you. Can't help you. There's something wrong with you.
You're gonna be upset with me. I know who Pearl Jam is, and I've listened.
My God.
I've listened to Pearl Jam. Not my favorite.
Oh my God, Vic.
But I'll let you continue. So you saw Eddie Vedder. Any other interesting musicians you've seen there?
Yeah, there's a lot of good bands. There's like Jack Irons, Band of Horses, Elvis Costello, The X. It was just a great lineup, great music. It was, Eddie Vedder has a few solo albums that he has recorded in the past.
He has that ukulele album that I've been interested in listening to, and I haven't done it yet.
But... Yeah, he sure started off the set list with that ukulele.
Oh yeah.
And it was just amazing. It was so good to hear him play those songs from I believe the album with the ukulele was Longing to Belong. That came out in 2011, but he also did like the soundtrack to like Into the Wild. So we got to hear some of those songs, and of course a few classic Pearl Jam songs. So that was really special.
Oh, that's cool. Definitely. And I guess the ukulele fits in with the Ohana part of the Ohana Fest. Did you eat any good Hawaiian food there?
There wasn't too much food, man. There's just a couple of fruit. There's just a couple of food trucks, and that took a long time to get food. So I was just like, nah, it's okay. I'll just starve.
Well, talking about concerts, we're going to segue into a new segment that we want to put into our regular review album podcast, and that is Story Time, where we talk about different events and happenings that have, I guess, happened to us.
Happenings that have happened.
Yeah, exactly. Happenings that have happened during concerts or at shows or at gigs, whatever you want to call it, to us during our lifetime. And we're going to let Janaye...
Yes.
We're going to let Janaye tell a little story. So, Janaye, take it away.
Once upon a time. So it was probably like 2005, maybe. So my music taste ranged from System of a Down to Fall Out Boy. I listened to a lot of things.
I remember that.
Yeah, I still listen to Fall Out Boy. So
Oh boy.
I've got very open musical taste.
They have a good couple of songs that I like.
Thank you. So I went to Warped Tour because I went to Warped Tour, and this was the year that Paramore went big. It was like their Crush album.
Uh-huh.
And I'm 5'1", so I go into the crowd because it's all standing room at Warped Tour, and there are tall people all around me. And I wasn't expecting Paramore to get crazy, but Hayley Williams walked out on stage, and people went fucking berserk. And people started crowd surfing. And it's like, I get crowd surfing, but it's Paramore, so I didn't really understand it. So because I was so short, there was a little bubble around me, and a crowd surfer came over, and they weren't prepared to have like a foot drop, and I wasn't prepared for that, so they landed on my neck, like feet first into my neck.
Boy.
So I got, the dudes that were standing next to me were like, my friend had already gotten out of the pit because she was like, this is nuts, like, peace. See you in the back. So the dudes that were standing next to me, like, picked me up and were, like, pushing people out of my way and pulled me out of the pit. And I met up with my friend, and I was just like, I think I need to go to the med tent because I just got kicked in the neck, and, like, I'm seeing stars. So as I was trying to find the medical tent, I saw Shant, who is the singer of Cute Is What We Aim For.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, hey, Shant, like, sorry, like, I'm a big fan. Can I get a picture with you real quick? And then can you tell me where the med tent is? Because I just got landed on in a pit, and I need to go. He's like, yeah, oh my God, yeah, okay. And, like, takes a picture with me and walked me over to the med tent. And then I sat in there for, like, 2 hours because I was a minor, and they couldn't contact my mom, so I missed yellow card.
That's so funny. I'm sorry.
And that was my Warped Tour experience for 2006.
Oh man, those are like the good old like emo type of bands.
Oh yeah. You want to talk about emo? I mean, I was that peak. It was peak emo because it was just like I was like 14, 15 when the emo thing hit.
Yeah, I remember that all too well.
Yeah. So it was just eyeliner, heavy bangs, like, dark clothes, feeling bad for myself, whatever.
Oh my God.
Did you say that you had to be in a neck brace there?
Yes, I did. I went in the med tent, and I was like, I got kicked in the neck. I think I need some ice. She's like, here's ice, and I'm going to put you in a neck brace. And I was like, all right. And, but then I was like, I felt fine. So I was like, okay, like, I'm not dazed anymore. And she's like, no. You're like 15. You don't get to leave until I get to talk to your mom. And ends up my mom was in a movie, which is why we couldn't get a hold of her. So she comes out of the movie and sees that she's got like 30 missed calls because I started calling my neighbors, like, is my mom's car home? Have you seen her? Like, this is all really fucked up.
And that's the story of how you missed yellow card.
That's the story of how I missed yellow card. And how I never went into pit for Paramore again because I was just like, yo, man. And always made sure I was standing with a friend so I wouldn't get landed on. Be like, man, whoever is taller than me needs to stand behind me.
Yeah,
so
taller friend, definitely.
Like, put your hands up. Throw people over me to the next patch of crowd.
I think that story time worked out really well. Hopefully the audience likes it, and hopefully we can continue this. I'm sure Jesse has plenty of stories. I have a few myself.
I have too many stories, man.
All right, I can't wait to get these going. Janaye, you have a podcast of your own. Would you like to plug it?
Sure.
Website, anything.
Yeah, I do a nerd podcast. I talk about,
All right.
comic book, like movies and comics and shows and all that cool stuff. We're called the Geek Boutique, and you can find us at geekboutiquepodcast.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram as Geek Boutique Podcast, and you can find us on iTunes as the Geek Boutique.
Awesome.
Can I ask you a quick geek question?
Yeah, sure. Bring it on.
All right. What do you like better, Marvel or DC?
Oof. So Batman's always been my favorite character, but
Me
I
too.
think right now, hey, high five. I think right now the Marvel, as like a cinematic universe, I think Marvel is
Oh
just
yeah, they're killing
way
it right
better.
now.
DC is shitting the bed so hard right now, and it's like I want to like what's going on.
Did you like Suicide Squad?
I did like Suicide Squad. I can absolutely see the flaws with it, but it was better than Batman v Superman, even though that's not hard to beat.
I totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah, so I think the DC, like the Christopher Nolan DC era with, the whole Dark Knight series was fucking peak. But if we're talking comic books, I probably read a little bit more Marvel than I do DC. I really like them both. I read a lot of independent stuff right now, just because it's tough trying to keep up with Marvel and DC right now because their universe turnover is so fast. Like, they just did the Secret Wars and now they're onto something else, and DC just rebooted with Rebirth, and I'm just like, I can't do it. I can't keep up, so I just wait for the volumes to come out. So, that's a long way of saying I like it all, man. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, but I like Marvel a little better right now. But but Batman kind of keeps DC relevant.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that's keeping the DC movie franchises afloat. They're still holding on to that Batman.
It's brand recognition. If they didn't have brand recognition and people were like, yeah, Batman, yeah, Joker, Superman, woo, if it were, like Marvel had to make better movies because people were kind of like, I don't really know Iron Man that well. Like, he's not super popular in, like, the lexicon.
Spider-Man is pretty popular.
Spider-Man was pretty popular, even
Spider-Man,
though the third
X-Men.
Spider-Man movie was also shit the bed. That was weird stuff.
Wait, whoa.
Yo, emo Peter Parker? What even was that?
Hey, that was Spider-Man. That was Spider-Man 3. We don't talk about Spider-Man 3, okay?
If we don't talk about Spider-Man 3, yes. But we're totally getting off of your guys' podcast.
True.
People that are here to listen to System of a Down talk are like, what the fuck is this?
True. Okay, so we'll go ahead and let everyone know to go to the geekboutiquepodcast.com.
Yes.
And also follow us on various social media, on Twitter at AOT. Oh, what is it?
AOTW?
AOTW on Twitter, and at AOTW Podcast on Facebook. And you can take a shortcut, AOTWpodcast.com, to get to Facebook. And, we're going to be trying to post every Monday as long as we can. And hopefully we'll see you again next Friday. And thanks for listening, and be kind to each other.